want to thank Charlie for the opportunity to allow my sister and I to share with you a little bit about homeschooling and to lead the meeting today. I'm Addie Jackson, and I'd like to introduce some of my lovely homeschool friends. And this is my sister Anna, and this is Josiah Stevens, Taryn Donahue, and Trisha Boys. And they're going to be sharing about some of their homeschooling activities here in our talk today. So first off, my mom is going to come up and talk to you about some Oklahoma legislative things regarding homeschooling.
Good afternoon. Glad to be here. Thank you, Charlie, for the opportunity again. We appreciate it. I wanted to just start a little bit by sharing a little bit about our family. These two are mine right here. share a little bit of background about our homeschooling journey. We started homeschooling when Addie was in preschool, and she's currently 17. And we've been doing it all along, and we've been really, we just thank the Lord we've had the opportunity to do that. I don't have very many opportunities to really publicly give the Lord credit, but I want to do that today because we wouldn't have been able to do it one day without Him and His strength and wisdom and direction. So I just want to give the Lord acknowledgement and praise for that.
Amen.
He's been faithful
Amen.
every day. So Addie is currently a junior/senior, and Anna is a 9th grader. And we have a variety of, we use an eclectic gathering of curriculum. We don't just have just one particular kind. We use a variety of things. When we started homeschooling, God purposed it on our heart really early, and we saw the state of the public schools, and we did not want to put our kids in public schools. And I considered private school for a little while, and then the Lord just really put it on my heart to homeschool. And He just kept bringing people in our path that homeschool. And it wasn't a coincidence that those people came across our path, and He continued to show us and give us direction. And so that's kind of how we got started. One of the main reasons that we homeschooled, that we chose to stay in the state of Oklahoma to homeschool is because of the freedom that we have. My husband was active duty Air Force for a while, and we got stationed here. This is home for us also. But we decided to stay in Oklahoma because of the freedom we have to homeschool here, and really didn't want to go anywhere else because of the restrictions that are in so many different places in other parts of the country. So that's part of the reason why we're here. Oklahoma is the only state in the country that has a constitutional provision for homeschooling, and we're real proud of that, and we really want to guard that very carefully. We're not required to report to any school district. The only time you have to report is if you were to withdraw a child that's currently enrolled in a public school. But if you start from the beginning, you're a free agent. You don't have to report, and it's just a wonderful gift that we have that kind of freedom. We're also not required to test, although many parents do that independently, but we're not required. The state is not lording that over us. We're not required to do that. There are approximately 2 million home-educated students in the United States. That's an approximation because in many places we don't have to report how many of us there are, and that drives the education people nuts because they don't know how many of us there are. In the state of Oklahoma, because we have so much freedom, it's hard to get a number on us. I read an article this last week. It was the most current. It was an August 2014 article that was trying to determine how many students in Oklahoma there are, homeschooling students, and they estimated, based on the population of school-age children, that there are probably about 19,000 homeschooling students in the state of Oklahoma, which would be about 2.8% of school-age children in the state of Oklahoma. And it looks like we're on an upswing It just looks like it continues to grow. We just became part of a co-op out where we are. We take like a Spanish class out in this co-op. We didn't even know it was there. It's a 1.5 miles from our house, and they doubled their numbers this year, just in our co-op alone. So those are just some fun facts. I thought another fun fact that might be interesting to everybody is that the 2013 Oklahoma State Public School per pupil expenditure average, that's a mouthful, the per pupil expenditure average in the state of Oklahoma is $9,075. So we have 5 homeschool students on our panel today, and that comes to a grand total of $589,875 that these families have saved our local, state, and federal government just by being homeschooled kindergarten through 12th grade. Okay, kindergarten through 12th grade. If you use those numbers, we've saved. You can calculate. We've saved that much money. They're not spending it. So that's just a fun little fact. The girls wanted me to talk a little bit about some pieces of legislation that relate to homeschooling. I'm going to do that really quickly. Related to funding, in the past there have been a couple of bills that have been brought forward that relate to ad valorem taxes, to exempt homeschooling families and private school families from having to pay ad valorem taxes. And one of the bills was House Bill 2621 by Representative Reynolds, and one was was proposing a constitutional amendment, SJR 53, by Representative Lovelace. I don't know exactly when that was, if that was last year or the session before. I'm not sure. I wish I could tell you that. These authors of these pieces of legislation were really well intended when they proposed this. They recognize that homeschool student families are paying their taxes plus paying to educate their students. So they're wanting to help us out. The problem with these bills is they also want to regulate us. And they want to, in order to be eligible for the tax credits, they're going to have to impose regulation in order to determine who's eligible for those tax credits. And our parent state organization, OCHEC, Oklahoma Christian Home Educators Association, does not support those kinds of bills because of the possibility of introducing regulation on our homeschool community. And so I just want to reiterate that the vast majority of homeschoolers would just rather pay their taxes and not be regulated and not be bothered by the government to report or inform them of, what's going on. We'd just rather have our freedom. We'd just rather operate the way we are. And so that OCHEC opposed that. Another interesting bill that has come up, I believe it's come up twice, and they're thinking that it may come up again this next session. It was under the number House Bill 1906, and it was brought forth by Representative Cleveland. And they actually on the OCHEC website have a recording of him talking about this bill. He's being encouraged in this bill by Barry Switzer. And it's kind of the Oklahoma version of the Tebow law. I don't know if you've heard about the Tebow law, that, the quarterback, Tebow, who was homeschooled, and he participated in public schools, extracurricular sporting activities. Well, Bobby Cleveland's bill that he wants to get brought forward would force public schools to allow homeschoolers to participate in extracurricular activities. And on the surface, that sounds really nice. However, along with that comes regulation. And the homeschooling community, the majority of us reject that. We really don't want to be regulated. And so while it sounds real nice on the surface, we would just really rather not do that. We don't want to impose ourselves on the public school system. OCHEC talks about that on their website. We don't want to force ourselves. We really want to be treated, we don't really want to be treated like a specialty class. We want to be treated as a viable educational option. We don't want to be a specialty group. And so I get pretty much the message is any legislation that comes down, even though it may be well-intended, we don't want to be regulated. And that's really our message to our lawmakers. We don't want anything. And they don't really know what to do with us when we tell them we don't want anything. We're a constituent block that doesn't want anything. We're not asking for anything. We just want to be left alone so we can operate in the freedom that our Constitution and laws provide for us. And we're really happy. And so we just want to communicate that to them. I just want to thank Representative Kern for her bill, the parental rights bill that she did this last year that passed and was signed by the governor in May. That it is not a bill that regulates, it is a bill that strengthens parental rights. It's a strengthening bill, comes underneath us and strengthens the homeschooling community. And we just really appreciate bills that do that and lawmakers that have that in mind. So that's something that is definitely positive. So the girls are going to continue with this presentation, and they're going to be talking about some myths that are commonly thought, people commonly have an idea about regarding homeschooling, and then they're going to all share. So turn back over to Adam.
Well, thank you, Mom. And that was my mom, Tanya Jackson. I really appreciate her homeschooling me throughout the years and taking the time to care so much about my education. And it has really benefited me very positively throughout the years. Thank you, Mom. All right, now Anna's going to come up and talk to us about our first myth of the day, homeschooling.
Okay, well, the first myth of homeschooling is that homeschooling in Oklahoma is safe.
Right in front of your mouth.
Right from your mouth. Okay.
Okay.
There we go. So myth number one is that homeschooling in Oklahoma is safe and that we can relax under the Oklahoma State Constitution. So, but now Oklahoma is the only state that makes provision in their Constitution for homeschooling. But even though we have that in our Constitution, we still need to be vigilant about issues like Common Core. Because homeschoolers are affected by Common Core. They have put information about that in the ACT and SAT tests. And so we're greatly affected by that very negatively. And so, and a lot of people think that that's the only, like, Common Core only affects public schoolers, but it also affects homeschoolers majorly, and it's more secretive, I think, in that way. So, and it doesn't affect just the ACT and the SAT, but it also affects the statewide database intent for the statewide database to intent to collect data about homeschoolers, and so they know a lot about you, and that's not good. So, and it also affects like college standards that are affected by Common Core standards, and so that makes it so. Well, it's really good to know about those kind of issues because being a homeschooler, but that's not the only issue, but that's a really big one for us. But it's also really important for homeschoolers especially to be involved in knowing your legislators and getting engaged with them and what they're doing and being politically aware about that kind of stuff. And one thing that you can do to get involved with your legislators, or we attend the OCPAC Capital Day, or also known as Homeschool Capital Day, and that is a statewide recognized day for homeschooling, obviously. So, what it is some of the things that you do there. They have like honorary speakers that speak. Like a couple years ago or in the past, they have had the governor there and the lieutenant governor. So that's pretty exciting. And then you can also they also provide a lunch for you to have with your legislators to get to know them and to be able to make them more aware about homeschooling and different things with that. And then they kind of know who you are and they can actually think of a certain person when they hear about homeschooling legislation. And so another thing that they do, some homeschooling families get packets when you come for that day, and it has information about the homeschool and stuff, and so you go and deliver that, and some people bring cookies and stuff to the legislators, and so that's a positive influence for the legislators with homeschooling. And a couple of reasons why the OCPAC Capital Day is important is because it puts a face on homeschooling, and it really shows how many of us there are, and that we're not just a little corner here in Oklahoma, but there are quite a few, like a lot of homeschoolers in Oklahoma, and it shows that we care and that we don't want to be regulated, and we just helps them be aware about how many of us there are. So there are and again, they can actually think of people that they've met that are homeschoolers that have come to their office specifically to talk to them about this. And it has also helped us to get, like us personally, to get to know our legislators better. Like our representative is Representative Luce Moore. And so through that, Addie was invited to be a personal page for him. And so we've been able to, that was really cool. And she's also through that been able to do the state paging program. And so that was, and Trisha's also paged down there, so yeah. But that is important, and it's really interesting because they care so much about you coming to their office, and as probably many of you have experienced, but that's a really good thing to do for that day. And so, yeah. And so I think Addie is going to talk about the myth, the second myth. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And before I go on to the next myth that we have, another important thing that has been really special to get involved with through our legislators is the National Prayer Day, where we go, I think it's the Sunday before the session begins, that people are invited to be able to go on the House and Senate floors to leave notes and pray at their legislators' desks. And our family learned about this about 2 years ago, and the boys' family also goes and does this at the Capitol. And it has been kind of a really special thing, and we've left notes, especially on our representatives' desks, but also other representatives who have constituents who might not be able to make it all the way to the Capitol to do that. But we stay there and we pray for them. And what was really interesting was one time we left a note on Jason Murphy's desk, and later when I met up with him again and talked to him, he mentioned the fact that we had left that note, and he keeps it on his desk, and it is an encouragement to him knowing that people are praying for him. And I thought that was just really cool, that it really made an impact on some of the legislators. And praying for even the very liberal legislators, I think that would make even a bigger impact to know that they have some support, that we're thinking about them and we care what they do. And that has been really interesting, and I encourage anyone who's not participated in that before, it's very worthwhile thing, and I think that it's very doable to leave a note on every representative and senator's desk if one person comes in and leaves at least 4 notes. And we could probably do that, because I noticed when we went there that not all desks had notes on them that they're being prayed for, and I think we tried to leave as many as we could for people. But and leave positive things, encouragements. We can talk to them about their mistakes a little later in the time, but positive encouragement for them in the prayer. All right, so the second myth of homeschooling that we're going to talk about is homeschoolers must be regulated, and I know my mom talked a little bit about that in hers. But it's really amazing how many people think that we should be automatically assume that we should be regulated, and students should have to report through testing and just checking up on us in our schooling and where we are. We get asked that a lot, and they're really surprised. Oh, you don't have to be regulated? You don't have to be tested? We're like, no. Some legislators will push for checks and regulations because they hear of a case of negligence in the homeschool community somewhere. And my mom explained some legislation that's been being pushed. Some of it's positive, but a lot of times, again, regulation is imposed upon us, and we just want you to leave us alone. We're happy to support us as homeschoolers, but we're fine. One of those instances, we were actually at Homeschool Capital Day, and we decided to, we heard that Nolan, Representative Nolan, had authored a bill a few years ago to regulate based on one case that wasn't even in her district. She quickly withdrew the bill before it went to committee and was apologetic because she got so much pressure and flack from the homeschool community about that bill. But we went into her office and personally talked to her about that. And we noticed that she still kind of indicated that some government oversight might be necessary, and we kind of went in there to clear that up, that we really, really don't want anything to be done to regulate homeschoolers. And research has shown that states with more education regulations do not produce greater educational successes. So regulation just causes problems. It doesn't help anything. It just more watching and restrictions on homeschoolers and taking away freedom. Further, people regularly want to know if the government supplies our books and are often surprised to discover that the government doesn't supply our curriculum. We do that. We choose it specifically for based on the needs and the learning abilities of the children. And we regularly explain this to people, that we can choose and purchase our own textbooks. And there's a wide array of curriculums. Every year new homeschooling curriculums are introduced and they become available for home educating families. And we see that a lot through the homeschooling convention. They have that every year. And this is one of the books, just one of them, containing homeschooling curriculum that you can purchase, Rainbow Resource Catalog. And that's got tons of curriculum, big old looking phone book thing, but that's curriculum that you can purchase for your kids to homeschool them. So people say, they're really surprised. There was one instance where we were sharing here in our local school district where one girl was having trouble with algebra, and her teacher was just providing the algebra by pulling things offline and wasn't even using a textbook. And they were getting really frustrated with that because they didn't have any references, they had no textbooks, she made up whatever they were doing. And she was not learning algebra, and we were talking to them and we were like, well, have you ever thought of purchasing a textbook? You know, you can go get an algebra book online. We suggested Saxon because that's one of the things that we use. Yeah. And she's like, they're really shocked. They're like, what? They'd never heard that you can actually go and purchase for your child materials to educate them with. And they were just really shocked. People can't get their mind wrapped around that you as a parent can pick the curriculum out and educate your children. And I find that fascinating because we've participated in the homeschool convention, and it is held, the OCPAC conventions are held in Oklahoma City and the convention in Tulsa as well. Over 200 curriculum vendors in the last year. So there are options, and people don't realize, even if you don't have, parents don't have to be educated, highly educated, to even homeschool their kids, because they get the curriculum and they have the teacher programs and the textbooks, and it's all there. And anyone can homeschool your children, whether you've gone to college or not, or you have a high education. And that's something people commonly are like, I don't know if I could homeschool my kids, but it's very doable now with the resources that are available. All right. To myth 3, and Anna is going to share that one with us.
So myth number 3, virtual charter or public school public school curriculum is homeschooling. Well, there is online schooling now that is through the public schools, but or this is public school in the home. But this is not considered homeschooling because the government provides the curriculum and monitors the student. And so the parents have to answer to the government. So it's not really homeschooling, as many say. But public school curriculum does not, it's not the same. And there's no parent direction at all. And so the HSLDA and OCPAC, the HSLDA is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, it does not recognize this type of schooling as homeschooling. So it won't defend, it will not represent clients who choose this type of education. But homeschooling, the real homeschooling, is privately led and it has parent direction education, and it's within the home. So it's not curriculum picked out by the government, which also has Common Core and everything like that. And so, and I think Addie's gonna, that was just a quick little myth right there. And so, but Addie's gonna talk about the fourth myth.
All right, on to the last myth that we have here. Well, something that we get constantly and continually is home-educated students suffer from the lack of socialization. We are poor-deprived, homeschooled, unsocialized kids. And one of my favorite jokes from Tim Hawkins, he goes, "Oh, you are not properly socialized." People are always saying, "No one's properly socialized, you're poor children." It's like, well, what do you get in trouble for mostly at public schools? Socializing. That is the biggest problem. So, to help dispel this myth, I have invited some of my fellow unsocialized homeschooler friends to come and share about how unsocialized they are in their lives. And Trisha Boyce is going to be the first person to share with us some of the things that she has participated in her life.
Forgot I was supposed to be the first one. No pressure. Okay, well, my name's Trisha Boyce, and I've been homeschooled all my life. I have 4 older siblings and then 1 younger brother. So there's 6 of us, and all 6 of us have been homeschooled all of our lives. And so my parents have just done a lot for us in that. So I am a part of a homeschool co-op. And I've been part of that since 1st grade. So a co-op, if you don't know, is just generally a lot of homeschool families who just get together maybe once a week, maybe a couple times a week, and they just kind of help each other out. The moms will teach different classes, especially if one mom doesn't know a whole lot about a subject or they're just not very good in that subject. Another mom can help out because they have more experience in that subject. And so that's just a good opportunity for homeschoolers, the moms to help out. And my co-op, I believe, has around 60 or a little more, 65 families in it this year. And so it's a lot of kids. So I've made the majority of my friends and my best friends through that. And actually Taryn, on the end, she goes to my co-op there, and that's how I met her. But some of the other things I do, I've done Teen Pact, which is it's like a government leadership class that's held at the state capitol. And it's just a 4-day class, and they teach you about how to be a leader, getting involved in the political arena, just trying to make a difference, even if you're not going to go into, being a legislator or anything like that, but just being able to talk to your legislator, bringing up issues like that. And so I've actually done that for 3 years, and that was a lot of fun. And that's where I met, well, Josiah and Taryn have both been to that. So it's kind of interesting. I know all these girls from different places, but we all know each other.
We have this really weird circular link that we know everyone in this some way or another.
And I've also done paging at the state capitol. My representative is Representative Sally Kern, who happens to be the wife of the pastor at this church where I go. And so it's just been really good to get to know her. And when I paged, it was just so much fun. I enjoyed it so much. And the representatives, a lot of them, they'll hang out with you, they'll talk to you with the pages, and you kind of get to know them, and it's a lot of fun. And it makes you see how easy it is to communicate with them, and kind of brings them down to, they're still humans that you can interact with. And then I've also been a part of, I've gotten to do a Justice for All pro-life training. It's an organization, and I've gotten to do the training for that. They teach you how to dialogue about abortion and just things like that, and actually talk to people about that in a positive way and not get into arguments and things like that. And how to do that effectively, because yelling at people doesn't generally get them to move over to your view. And so I've done that, I believe, 5 or 6 times now. I think over the past 3 or 4 years. And that's just been really good. Gone on to college campuses and gotten to talk with college students. And it's amazing when they realize that younger students, like high schoolers, can talk about this on such a high level. It just amazes them. And so we get really good training for that. But so that's really good. But one of the things that I'm involved in right now, I'm actually in the middle of, one of my activities is robotics. I'm on a robotics team. And when people hear that, they generally go, oh, you must be really smart if you build robots. You go, well, actually, I don't really do a whole lot when it comes to designing and building the robot. I'm in charge of the marketing side of the team. And so we do things like marketing presentations where we act like we're a company and try to sell our product or our robot and to a panel of judges and just things like that. So that's been just a really good experience. I know so many homeschoolers who just have the busiest schedule, and it just makes me laugh when people say homeschoolers are unsocial. Because they just are constantly going places and doing things and interacting and just have all these different activities. So, and I forgot to say, I'm a senior in high school this year. So.
So, unsocialized, huh? All right, our next speaker is Karen Donahue, and she's going to share about some of the things that she is involved in.
Hi, I am Taryn Donahue. Most of you, or a lot of you, probably know my dad. So I'm sure Donahue is known around here. I am a senior in high school. I have been homeschooled my whole life, and it has been a great experience. I can't imagine doing it any other way. I have been participating in many different, organizations, one of which is called American Heritage Girls, and it is a scouting organization, much like, a little like Girl Scouts, but they have a very Christian basis. And I have been doing that several years. I'm not sure how many years. I counted a while back, but I forgot. And when our troop started, the troop I am participating in, the majority of it was homeschooled, which is really cool because it goes through the homeschool circles and everyone learns about it. And as it grows, it gets more and more people, and not just homeschoolers, but lots of other people, like the public schoolers and private schoolers. As of now, I don't know how long our troop has been going, but half of them are homeschooled and half of them are not, which is kind of cool because the homeschoolers and the public schoolers are socializing and all that kind of stuff. Another thing that I do is karate. I am a student of karate. I have been doing it about 1.5 years. I'm not really sure, probably around that. And I really enjoy it because it teaches me how to defend myself and how to, I know what to do if I'm ever in trouble. And it's amazing how close you get to the people you're in karate with because you will fight someone, you will spar with them, and you be punching them and kicking them. At the end, you just hug because it's just that kind of way. I'm not sure what happens, but a lot of people do that. And there are a lot of homeschoolers in karate as well, which I was surprised because I didn't know how many were when I joined, but there was like at least 2 families that joined at the same time I joined, and they're both homeschooled, which I think is really neat. I am also involved in Team Pact, like Trish, and I've been doing that several years now. It has been great. It has been awesome for me. I've learned a whole bunch about politics and how the government works and all that kind of stuff. It has helped me moving out of my comfort zone, which is something I am not very good at. This is one of those times. Yeah. And I really enjoy Team Pact. There was something else. Oh yeah, I am also involved in co-op with Trish. She said that, I think. But yeah, that's great because you get to socialize with all different kinds of homeschoolers. There's people that go to our co-op from all over the place. It's located in Del City. There's people from Edmond. There's people from all over the place. Where else? Oklahoma City. We've got people coming from Norman, and everywhere, which is really cool. And so, I feel very socialized.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I have to watch out for that girl. That karate thing keeps my distance. All right, our next guest is Josiah Stevens, who's going to share about her unsocialized life as well.
Hi, I'm Josiah Stevens. She just said that. So I'm 14. I'm a 9th grader, more or less, homeschooling, you know. So I also attend a co-op. It's called Classical Conversations. It's a little bit different than the kind of co-ops Taryn and Trish do. The way it's set up is that instead of multiple different classes and different kids go to different classes, you have one set class and all the kids go to the same class and it covers all the subjects, and that way you integrate all the subjects, and it's the classical model. I really like it. It's a lot of fun. I also do Team Pact. Also, I'm not going to go over Team Pact again. So that's where I met Trish and, not Delise, whatever, Taryn, yeah. Her younger sister's named Delise. So I have to say though, it gave me a lot of self-confidence and it made me want to run for representative. So that's what I'm going to be doing when I'm older. You guys better vote for me. Okay, I'm also in homeschool PE, and although I'm not the best at all, you know, I enjoy getting to play sports and games with my friends. We've done rock climbing, volleyball, kickball, softball, basketball, and we'll be doing archery. So I'm a little bit excited about that. Hope I'm good at it. Okay, last year I attended Stagecoach, which is a really fun drama class. My teacher is Mrs. Hoschel, and she's been active in movie making, and she'll at one point direct a movie. She's getting there. She's done a whole bunch of other things. It was really fun. I performed Leaving Iowa, and I was Judy and Grandma. And that was fun, and I had to wear a fat suit. But other than that, it was fun. Last year, I also did sewing. My teacher was a homeschool mom, and she's the sweetest lady ever. She has a degree in sewing from OSU. I'm sure you guys are happy about that. So, and while I sew, it's like this big classroom, and there's a lot of friends in there, and you just talk, and you laugh, and you giggle, and you sew, and try not to stab yourself while you're laughing. But in 1 year, I was really surprised. She's a really good teacher. I made a large skirt with pockets. We need the pockets. PJ pants, a stuffed animal, and a literary costume cloak, which is a big, long cloak thing, and it's really pretty. Okay, I also do pro-life work. I met Trisha at Pro-Life first, actually. I've been going to the Norman Abortion Clinic recently, gotta check my notes, with a local pro-life group that preaches and encourages women not to abort their baby. So I go up there and I pray and I hold a sign. It's really cool. I've also gone to 2 JFA outreaches, and I've participated in street preaching outreaches at OU and the State Fair. That was fun. Some people got mad at us, but that's normal. Later this month, I'll be attending an Oklahomans United for Life research and training thing, and I think John Mishner, way back there. Yep, there he is. Yeah. You want to come up here and talk? No. So that's what I've been doing.
Yes.
What?
He will.
Hide the microphone. No. Okay, so that's what I've been doing, and you can tell I'm just really unsocialized, starved for friends. Help me! No. Okay, so here's Addie.
You gotta love that girl. I love her. All right, and we're gonna have Anna come up and briefly share a little bit about what she does, and we kind of do a little bit of the same stuff, and so she's gonna.
Okay, well, I'm going to share about my own socialization. So, one of the things that's really helped me throughout the years and what we've been involved with is 4-H. And if anyone doesn't know what 4-H is, it is a youth organization that teaches kids leadership, life skills, community service, kind of things like that. And so in 4-H, you have project areas, and 4-H has really helped me to figure out what I'm interested in and make a lot of friends, and you get to interact with a whole bunch of people, and you learn like working with teams and getting along with people, hopefully. So some of the projects that I'm interested in my 4-H, I've learned to sew through that. I have an insect collection, those are over there. My sister also has one, and she sews too. Those are 2 of my main project areas. And another thing we just got involved with is a shooting sports club. And so we do that, we shoot shotguns, and we've been working on like skeet and trap and stuff like that. And so it's a good skill to learn. It's really fun. So I have a community service project that I do in 4-H that I've developed over the years. And I make pillowcases, I call it cases for, Anyway, I make pillowcases for veterans at Christmas time, so they can have, those of them that are in the hospital can have a little Christmas cheer in their room. And I put Bibles and a couple other things that are Christmassy in stockings, and I go deliver them personally to them, and they really appreciate that. And it's really neat because we get to pray with each one of them when we go and learn about their story. And I've gotten to meet several World War II veterans, and it's really beneficial, and I think it's blessed me more than it's blessed them. But I've really enjoyed that. And so I'm also involved in a co-op, and so you know what a co-op is, but I'm also involved in that, and that's helped me to make some friends also. And I've enjoyed that. I'm learning Spanish, so hopefully that goes well. So I've done some pro-life activist work also. I've been involved with JFA, and I hope to get involved with John Missioner's new ministry, Oklahomans for United for Life. Okay, but I like to volunteer for that. And another thing that I've been involved in, our family goes to a camp that is held by Ministry, Life Action Ministries, and the camp's called Life Action Camp. We've been doing that for the past 10 years, and we really enjoy it. And so to help staff the camp, they have teen volunteers or collegiate level volunteers that go and they work as the crew to staff the camp. And so I did that this last summer, and I stayed for 3 weeks, and it's in Michigan. And so it was a pretty big deal. It was really neat, and you get to meet a lot of godly people there, and so it was a really good experience. So, okay, so I think Addie's going to talk about some things that she does.
Thank you, Anna. All right, well, as sisters, we do a lot of things together. And so a lot of those things that she mentioned, we've done together. And I've been involved in 4-H as well. I I do a lot of things like photography and fabrics and fashion and visual arts and entomology. And I really enjoy the entomology aspect of it. It's been really fun. And that's, don't know what entomology is, the study of insects. And my sister and I, we do collections and have fun doing stuff like that. One of the things that 4-H has really helped me with is public speaking. It's given me lots of opportunities to work with the audience and lead meetings and kind of help. It really helps kids to become leaders and to really benefits in that way. And they also encourage a lot of community service work through that. And my sister was able to start her pillowcase project, but I also started a project through that. I do Quilts for Life, where I make baby quilts for crisis pregnancy centers for them to put into care packages and give to mothers. And I have an example of one of the quilts that I've sewn through that. Another thing that I've really enjoyed doing is getting on the political side of things. I've been able to participate in JBS. I love my JBS people. They're really special to me. And we've been able to do lobbying, which was something I've never done, which was quite eye-opening to be able to go and talk to people about real bills and to share opinions on that. And through that, Homeschooling Capital Day, I've been able to go page and meet my representatives and get to know them. I paged for Representative Lewis Moore. And through that, it was just really interesting to just be able to talk to our representatives on the floor. So when I go up there, I'm familiar with them, and so like if we've got a bill, like through the lobbying, they remember me from paging, and I've been able to communicate with them more comfortably, and they just kind of get to know us through that. I do shooting sports. I'm really enjoying that. That's been good to learn how to do shotgun and stuff. And one thing, I just really enjoy pro-life work with the sharing with people the truth about abortion and just being able to do that. And my quilt project kind of flows with that. And so I've really enjoyed it and hope to really work with John Mishner through his new ministry through that. So, and those are just a few of the things that us homeschoolers participated in. Thank you, Trisha and Josiah and Taryn, Anna, for coming and sharing with everyone. I will open the floor up now for questions. All right.
Microphone.
Yeah, we might want to do the microphone.
I have an official title. We both carry an official title. So, didn't my future staff members do a great job? Right. So I have a question for Mrs. Jackson, if you want to grab the microphone, and then I have a question and maybe a challenge or homework assignment for you to follow up after that. So I heard you say a lot as you were talking, this is what OCPAC says, this is what OCPAC says. And so they have their own views, and then we each individually have our views. So here's the question. Most students, the common kid, does not have the blessing of parents like you all have had to educate you at home. 95, 96% plus have broken homes, or they have parents unwilling or unable to teach their children at home. In my view, there needs to be a rescue mechanism for those kids. How do we get the next generation to learn things that are true to preserve our society? What's the mechanism? And you quoted the $9,000 plus per head per year figure that we spend on education. So I don't know if OCPAC has a position that money to the kids or not in the form of a voucher or kickback or something. So I want to know, what is your personal view of support to attaching a voucher or the dollar amount to the child to spend however you want? And do you know anything about OCPAC's position on that? If not, I'll ask my mom.
Wow. Yeah. You better ask your mom on that. I don't know OCPAC's position on that, and I haven't really even thought about that before. I don't know. I know that would be, government money, so I'm not sure.
Well, where did it come from?
Well, taxpayer money. Yeah, I know. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. I know that, like you said, there's a lot of kids who don't have stable homes, and so that is problematic. I would encourage, if you can get your child into some form of Christian education, some way, somehow, whatever we need to do, we need to get our kids out of the public schools and into some form of Christian education, because they're being indoctrinated against God in the public school system, and I think whatever we need to do, I haven't really thought that through, so I would be kind of bumbling around to answer that. But
I mean, how many more kids could be blessed the way these are if there were the resources there for them to be able to stay at home or to go to a Christian school? So I'm with you. I don't want regulation. I don't want observation in my life and on my children. But at the same time, we have to be willing somehow to stand up to help those other kids. They have to get the money, or they have to get to our house to be educated with our kids, or to our local parish or church school. So we have to find a way, sometimes at risk, to help those kids because we have an obligation. So let me go now to my other question or challenge. The other thing that I heard repeatedly from all of you is, leave us alone. Don't regulate us. Don't test us. Leave us alone. And I get that and I appreciate that. But when the beast comes and he wants to regulate you and he wants to test you, it's not enough to say, leave me alone, I don't want that. It's also not enough to make the utilitarian argument that, oh, look, we're doing just fine. See, we're just as good as these other kids. So my question is, can any of you make a principled, moral argument for why the government should not test or regulate you? And if you can't, make that your homework assignment.
Why they should not be regulated.
It's not enough to say leave me alone. Explain to me why you should be left alone in principle.
Well, go sit down, John. I think
It's freedom.
I think the basicness of freedom in our. I know that's probably not going to satisfy John. That's not principle enough. Do you guys have any ideas? Because this is your thing. So.
Well, as people, I think, continually tell us that we have religious freedom, if public schools are going to impose ideas upon us that go against our moral values and our freedoms, how do they have the right as an American citizen to have to sit under that and being continually indoctrinated with that kind of teaching? We have the freedom to say, no, I don't want that. And as a parent, parental rights, which are being continually trying to take away from us by the UN, we won't get into that, but that's continually being knocked at us, trying to take away rights. As a parent, you should be able to choose how you educate your children. That's a freedom that we've had in our country for a long time, and it is continually being trying to take away from us because they don't want people like us to be in society. They want to control the kids with their doctrine, and they're doing a good job, I think. And so as homeschoolers, if you get them out of that system, out of the communist mindset of you have to be equal, you have to, of like the Common Core, they're trying to tell kids you're not going to be a mathematician because you have these certain characteristics. That is communism. And as homeschoolers, as this is being imposed, it's happening. It's not what if, when. It's happening in states. It's already being imposed. And so we have to stand up for our freedom to be able to educate our children and to not have to listen to that. Does anyone? Do you all want to add
I hope you'll go into politics, young lady.
Does that answer that, Mr. Commissioner?
Oh, there's more, but that's great.
all right.
I have an easier question for you girls. In your association with other students who are not homeschooled, do y'all ever talk about your education, where you stand on issues or ideas or what you're learning, and how would you compare what you are learning through homeschool with the other students in the public school? Do you feel like you're further ahead than they are, or better educated than they are, or less, or anything? Any comments you'd like to make about that?
All right. Do you guys want to answer that?
I'll answer the first part. Okay, actually, in my co-op, Classical Conversations, we have an entire subject set aside for current events. That's where we choose an issue each week, for example, Ebola, women in the military, abortion, things like that, and we debate it every single week. So we do talk to our friends, and we know about current issues and events and how those things work out. And whether we're ahead of the public schoolers or not, I have to honestly say that I'm not 100% sure because I don't know a public schooler. I'm not a public schooler, obviously. So I'm going to give that to someone else to answer.
Well, you said we have interaction, was your question, we have interactions with public schoolers and how do we talk to them about homeschooling? I think people just get curious. I think we don't always have to tell them all about it. People just ask us. Like, I was at a concert one time and I had this a public school teacher sitting next to me, and I got so slammed with questions on homeschooling. Where do you get your curriculum? How do you do this? How can you test? So I was able to share with him about that, but we get asked by our friends, and actually I've had a lot of my friends say, I wish I was homeschooled. I wish my parents would homeschool me. Yep. They're like, that's really cool, you're homeschooled. And so we're able to kind of talk a little bit about that. We don't always like to get into it too much because we learn the same stuff at school and we do subjects and things, but 4-H for Anna and I provided a great opportunity to basically, we're some of the only homeschoolers in 4-H. I've met quite a few. Well, I actually have some friends who are in 4-H who are homeschoolers, but it's given us an opportunity to do all sorts of stuff with public schoolers and has given us a way to interact with them in many, many ways. So 4-H has been really good with that. Trisha, Karen, do you have any answer?
I'd probably just say the same thing.
Yeah, 4-H has been really good for us in terms of that. Does that answer?
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, ladies. First of all, I want to say you guys are some super young ladies. Yep. And obviously, a result of some very special parents. And I appreciate that. That is super. My question is, when you want to take a course that requires hardware, for example, like chemistry, where you need chemicals and Bunsen burners and glassware, or if you want to take a wood shop course and you want to build a desk, where you get do you have access to the saws and all the miter machines and all that it required to learn those things?
Does anyone?
Microphone. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. And being in a co-op, we have a chemistry class, and so we have some of that. And even some of my friends who aren't in co-ops, I've heard them say they just kind of get together with other homeschool friends. They find someone who has those tools or whatever. Being on a robotics team, obviously we do work with things like saws and different things like that. And so with our robotics team, we have some of our own tools. We meet at Metrotech Aviation Career Center, and so we get to use some of their tools also. And we have sponsors who donate money for tools or tools, things like that. And so I haven't really heard of anyone who has had haven't been able to find the resources for that. They've either known people or they've gotten to,
homeschool convention. You can part of the homeschool convention. When you think about curriculum, you think only books. Oh, that's what makes the homeschool convention fun. Is because they have people who develop curriculums like through chemistry or woodworking or things like that, where you can purchase chemistry sets to do at home, to do with your curriculum. I am actually doing chemistry this year, and I have my own chemical set and do my experiments at home. As I did with biology, I did my own dissections, and they do stuff through their co-ops. Have you done the biology through that? Yeah. So there's things provided. It's provided with the curriculum, but part of being homeschooled, you provide your own stuff for yourself, and that's one thing. You know, homeschoolers, we pay for everything that we receive curriculum-wise because we do.
Could I have all the parents of these children that are here today stand up, please? The parents of the children that are here today. Let's give them a hand. We thank you for what you're doing. It's a real commitment to do this, and I appreciate that very much. Just a couple of things here, and I could add an awful lot of things. But I want you to know, I heard a lot of people talk about TeenPAC. And I had an opportunity to be the guest director one year at TeenPAC. And that particular year, one of the students, it was his first time at TeenPAC. Another student, it was her second time. That's Josh Cockcroft and Elise Hall.
Yes.
Now, Josiah, you said you are 14. At age 21, Josh and Elise Hall both ran for the state legislature. Both of them won at age 21. So you just have 7 years before you're going to be out there running. All right? I also heard Jason Murphy's name mentioned. And how many of you know that Jason is the first homeschooled student to be elected to the state legislature in modern times? Did you know he was homeschooled?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, he is homeschooling his 2 boys, but he was the first homeschooled person to be elected to the state legislature. I'd also like for Susan Holmes and Stephanie West to please stand up here. And I want to recognize the 2 of you. A number of years ago, for about a 4-year period of time, these 2 ladies had their children here almost every Wednesday. They learned, or they perceived that this was probably the best civics education their children could be subjected to, and that's the reason they brought them here. It worked out really good because you had a class that started at 2 or something of that nature, so you went from here to there. And there were about anywhere from 10 to 15 homeschoolers here virtually every Wednesday. We really enjoyed it. We gave those students as many opportunities as we could, much like what you've had today. We appreciate it. You all are very much our future. You will hear that a lot, but you really are our future. You're really our hope. There are a few kids that come through the government schools that you hope for also. There's plenty of those that come through that just terrifies you to realize that that's our future. But you are our future. I really do mean that. And so one other thing I want to mention, and I believe, I forget who asked this question, on comparing the quality of education with homeschool, private school, and government schools. You may not know this, but many states had laws against homeschooling 30 years ago. And it was a battle in many states to allow that. And eventually all 50 states allowed homeschooling to some degree, with some level of oversight and control. The state of Texas was in a very heated battle. And the homeschool advocates there did some very good research, and they did some comparisons with the quality of education of children educated in the government schools, children educated in the private schools, and children that were home educated. The ones in the private school always excelled over children in the government schools. The ones that were homeschooled excelled over not only the kids in the government schools, but also the kids in the private schools. So I want you to think about this as you go through the next few years of your life, about how much gratitude you should have for the sacrifices that your parents make to homeschool you. I hope you understand it. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much, and we'll see you. Thank you, girls. Got to know both.